There is going to be a time in our lives when nature's wrath shows up at our door and the only thing we can do is accept our fate. But some people defy the odds and somehow slip away from the grasp of death. Here are 6 people who survived the impossible. 1. Maria Bellin. In 2004, a woman named Maria Bellin, her husband, and her child were swimming around and enjoying their day at Orchid Resort Hotel in Thailand when suddenly a huge tsunami hit the area. They were taken by surprise, but the speed of the incoming wall of water gave them no time to think. Bellin immediately told her son to get into the pool for safety before she was slammed into a glass window and pushed into the hotel by the waves. She was slammed against the walls and had a near-death experience where she saw many tunnels with lights at the end, something that many people see when they're about to die. Bellin almost gave up on living, but decided to persevere and eventually rose to the surface where she saw her son Lucas in the water. They held onto each other and found a tree trunk that saved their lives. Lucas later explained that jumping into the pool saved him and that he was thankful to his mom for telling him to do so. Despite the miracle, Bellin still had to go to the hospital due to a huge wound on her thigh and chest. 2. Franz Selak. Next, we introduce the luckiest unlucky man alive. Franz Selak, a Croatian music teacher born in 1929, survived not only 1 but 6 accidents that all could have taken his life. His first experience happened in January 1962 when the train he was riding fell off track and landed in a freezing river. 17 of the train's passengers died, but Selak survived, with a mere broken arm and a few scratches here and there. Only 1 year later in 1963, Selak was again at death's door. He was on a plane when he was thrown out due to a door that was suddenly blown off. 19 people died from the accident, but Selak actually survived the fall from the plane and landed on a haystack. He was only left with small injuries. The third time was in 1966, when Selak was on a bus that fell into a river. 4 people died from the fall, but once again, Selak survived the incident unharmed. Then in 1970, his car caught on fire when he was casually driving. Miraculously, he was able to escape the car before the fuel tank exploded and once again survived. In 1973, only 3 years later, his car caught on fire again and he was unharmed again, besides losing almost all of his hair. Another bus accident happened in 1995 when Selak was hit by a bus. Finally, in 1966, Selak dodged an incoming truck on a mountain road by driving off track and to his death. He was somehow saved again by landing on a tree. His car, however, fell down 300 feet and exploded. 3. Bugorsky. An incident happened on July 13, 1978, when a physics researcher named Bugorsky was working on Soviet's largest particle accelerator, the synchrotron U-70. When he was working, Bugorsky accidentally stuck his head in front of where the proton beam was. He reported no pain, but 200,000 rads of proton beam entered his skull and 300,000 rads exited. Imagine what 200,000 protons of light did to the inside of his head. Not surprisingly, the left side of his face swelled up like a balloon, and eventually his left face was completely frozen. He also lost hearing in his left ear. A mere 500 to 600 rads can actually kill a person, but Bugorsky survived 200,000 rads of light, which is unexplainable. Bugorsky could function normally after the incident, and even finished his PhD. 4. Roy Sullivan. Roy Sullivan was a forest ranger in Virginia, and within his 36 years of working as a ranger, he was struck 7 times by lightning. His first lightning strike experience was in 1942, when the strike hit his leg and chipped off his toenail. The next strike in 1969 stripped him of his eyebrows and made him pass out. In 1970, a strike hurt his shoulder, and in 1972, a lightning strike set his hair on fire. 1 year later, his hair was set on fire once again. In 1976, Sullivan received the gift of an injured ankle. And finally, on June 25, 1977, Sullivan was hit once again and received chest and stomach burns, resulting in an ugly hospital visit. Because of all the times he was hit by lightning, Sullivan made it on the Guinness Book of World Records. 5. Truman Duncan. A 38-year-old railroad switchman from Texas named Truman Duncan was doing his job one day when he suddenly fell in front of a moving train car. Unfortunately, he couldn't escape in time and was actually sliced in two by the moving train, which supported 20,000 pounds of dead weight. Somehow, he was able to stay conscious and call 911 and told them that he was cut in two and that he was about to pass out. 45 minutes later, help finally arrived. He was still conscious. Doctors spent 3.5 hours trying to save Duncan's life, and Duncan stayed in a coma for 3 weeks preceding his accident. He had at least 23 surgeries after being cut in half and stayed in the hospital for 4 months before being released. Duncan left the hospital in a wheelchair and amazingly returned to work at his old company. He said that his motivation to stay alive was that he had 3 children and that he wanted to see his babies grow up. Duncan is proof that if you have the extreme will to live in desperate situations, then maybe nature will spare you and give you another chance at living. 6. Anna Elizabeth Johansson Begenholm. This woman was a Swedish radiologist from Vänersborg. In 1999, she was on a skiing trip and heading down a steep hill. She suddenly lost control of her skis and fell into a frozen stream. Her upper body fell into a hole that opened up in the ice, and she was trapped under the ice for 80 minutes in extremely freezing water. The ice was 7.9 inches thick, so she had no way to escape. Her feet and skis were above the ice, while the rest of her body was completely stuck down there. During that time, Anna experienced hypothermia and circulatory arrest. Thankfully, she was able to find an air pocket under the ice, which probably saved her life. After she was rescued, more than 100 doctors and nurses spent 9 hours trying to save her. Anna woke up 10 days later and eventually recovered completely despite a few nerve problems. So those were 6 people who survived the impossible. Leave a comment down below and make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching and see you guys next time.